So let's move on to the Twitter files hearings then, Patrick.
So these were hearings in Washington. This was happening yesterday, so we were watching some of this, also participating in some very good discussions online with Twitter Spaces on this as well, with whistleblowers and journalists and things like that. So what was going on here, and that was the big question, Mike, what did they have on offer? So the Twitter files hearings have been interesting because this is a chance for people to be questioned directly. So one of the representatives, Nancy Mace, a Republican congressman, she's got Ms. Gadd, she was the head of legal moderation or whatever, the head lawyer for censorship, basically,
right,
under the Dorsey regime at Twitter. Watch this exchange. It's very, very revealing and literally not pulling any punches.
Another example of what Twitter has done to censor folks is from Dr. Martin Koldorf, a Harvard-educated epidemiologist who once tweeted, "COVID vaccines are important for high-risk people and their caretakers. Those with prior natural infection do not need it, nor children." The Twitter files reveal this tweet was deemed false information because it ran contrary to the CDC. So my first question this morning of Ms. Gaddy, may I ask of you, where did you go to medical school?
I did not go to medical school.
I'm sorry?
I did not go to medical school.
That's what I thought. Why do you think you or anyone else at Twitter had the medical expertise to censor a doctor's expert opinion?
Our policies regarding COVID were designed to protect individuals. We were seeing...
You guys censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated doctors, doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silenced those voices. My next question is, did the U.S. government, I have another chart I want to show you, Ms. Gaddy. I have another tweet by someone with a following of a full 18,000 followers. This person put a chart from the CDC on Twitter. It's the CDC's own data, so it's accurate by your standards, and you all labeled this as misleading. You're not a doctor, right, Ms. Gaddy?
No, I'm not.
Okay. What makes you think you or anyone else at Twitter have the medical expertise to censor actual, accurate CDC data?
I'm not familiar with these particular situations.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not. But this is what Twitter did. They labeled this as inaccurate. It is the government's own data. I have another question, my last one for you, Ms. Gaddy. Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to pressure Twitter to moderate or censor certain tweets? Yes or no?
We have a program.
Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to censor or moderate certain tweets? Yes or no?
We receive legal demands to remove content from the platform from the U.S. government and governments all around the world. Those are published on a third-party website, and anyone can review
Thank
them.
God for Matt Taibbi. Thank God for Elon Musk for allowing to show us in the world that Twitter was basically a subsidiary of the FBI, censoring real medical voices with real expertise that put real Americans' lives in danger because they didn't have that information.
So straight away, the Twitter lawyer said, we received legal requests from the U.S. government. That's the point. They're not legal. If the U.S. government's involved in denying protected First Amendment rights to U.S. citizens, that's not illegal.
That's not legal.
It's not legal. Yeah. Right. It's unconstitutional. That shows you how divorced from reality these people at Twitter are, these overpaid bureaucrats, super bureaucrat censors, and unbelievable the amount of power. They were censoring the global conversation, Mike, from their office in San Francisco,
right,
determining what people around the world had in terms of information about COVID, about vaccines, about lockdowns, about all of that stuff. Unbelievable. Now, it gets worse. So the Hunter Biden laptop, can we all agree that this is real? This actually happened? I mean,
we can.
It was never fake. It was never Russian disinformation. It was real. It remains real. And in the future, it will be real as well. But not according to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Listen to what AOC thinks. She still thinks it is Russian disinformation. Watch this.
Here's the deal. Before I even get into my questions, I think that the story here with the Washington Post reporting is that what they're saying right here, when the New York Post first reported in October 2020 that it had obtained contents of a laptop computer allegedly owned by Joe Biden's son Hunter, there was an immediate roadblock faced by other news outlets that hoped to corroborate reporting, as many did. The newspaper wasn't sharing what it obtained. New York Post had this alleged information and was trying to publish it without any corroboration, without any backup information. They were trying to publish it to Twitter. Twitter did not let them, and now they were upset. I believe that political operatives who sought to inject explosive disinformation with the Washington Post couldn't get away with it. And now they're livid. And they want the ability to do it again. They want the ability to inject this again. So they've dragged a social media platform here in Congress. They're weaponizing the use of this committee so that they can do it again. A whole hearing about a 24-hour hiccup in a right-wing political operation. That is why we are here right now. And it's just an abuse of public resources, an abuse of public time. We could be talking about healthcare. We could be talking about bringing down the cost of prescription drugs. We could be talking about abortion rights, civil rights, voting rights, but instead...
I don't even know where to start with that.
So it's a political partisan cover-up.
Yeah.
She's upset because this was exposed. Still, in her mind and to her supporters and Democratic voters, the Hunter Biden laptop story was fake. It was a Russian disinformation campaign. Mike, we are in such a dangerous place in society that people can't acknowledge that certain things are actually what they are, which is facts and truth. And we've got AOC and politicians banging on the propaganda narrative. Now, things got a little bit testy later with the congressman from Louisiana, Clay Higgins, and he basically did a dressing down of all of the Yoel Roth, Gad, and the other moderator they had up there. So watch this. This got serious at the end.
For the record, Mr. Baker, Ms. Gotti, Mr. Roth, Mr. Navaroli, are you here under the advice of counsel, and do you have counsel present?
Yes, sir.
That was a yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I was subpoenaed
That's
to
good to
appear.
know. I'm glad you all have counsel present. Mr. Chairman, for submission for the record, I'd like consent to submit the Twitter files dated December the 8th, posted by the New York Post regarding the suppression of conservative commentators. Like that submitted.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to also submit for the record a timeline of events with cited sources outlining strong evidence of the Biden family organized criminal actions would certainly indicate that we've crossed the threshold of reasonable suspicion. I'd like this timeline submitted for the record.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, where is that from, that timeline?
Timeline in my hand, boss. I'll get it to you shortly. Bottom line is that the FBI had the Biden crime family laptop for a year. They knew it was leaking. They knew it would hurt the Biden campaign. So the FBI used its relationship with Twitter to suppress criminal evidence being revealed about Joe Biden 1 month before the 2020 elections. You, ladies and gentlemen, interfered with the United States of America 2020 presidential election, knowingly and willingly. That's the bad news. It's going to get worse because this is the investigation part. Later comes the arrest part. Your attorneys are familiar with that. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to spend 5 hours with these ladies and gentlemen doing depositions surely yet to come. But for right now, I'll yield the balance of my time to my...
Okay, so that is getting serious.
So putting them on notice, so prosecutions, arrests. I've not heard this before. This is the first we've heard. So we'll see how this pans out. We'll see. Okay,
and in a slightly related situation, Wednesday's Prime Minister's questions. Well, Rishi Sunak was asked a question about the recent exposure of 77 Brigade. Let's have a listen to this.
Bel Rubirade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Big Brother Watch recently released a report into unaccountable government bodies such as the Counter Disinformation Unit, the Rapid Response Unit and the British Army's 77th Brigade. We're seeing huge swathes of public money being spent recording political dissent on social media under the guise of tackling misinformation. Politicians, including myself, the Leader of the Opposition, academics, activists and journalists and even members of public have been subjected to monitoring by Whitehall officials. This at the same time as we're waiting for the reporting of the Pitchford inquiry into questionable state surveillance on campaigns like the Stephen Lawrence campaign. So can the Prime Minister tell us how much public money is spent on these units and whether he thinks it's a justifiable thing to do in our democracy to spend public money in this manner? And could you also update the House on the progress of the Pitchford inquiry?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I have to get back to the Honourable Lady on the Pitchford inquiry and indeed to give her an exact figure. But in general, I think certainly I on this side of the House believe very strongly in free speech and will make sure that we continue to protect it wherever we can.
So he was asked 3 very specific questions there. He simply sideswiped them, not interested, not prepared to engage at all. That man needs to lose his job. That is unacceptable in my opinion.
He slithered right out of that question. Amazing.
So